Welcome back. Huge changes are happening right now with the US housing market. So for example, Freddie Mac reported last week that average mortgage rates increased to the highest level in the last 8 months. To make matters worse, the median sold price nationwide is not too far off the all-time record high that was set last year. Part of the reason why home sold prices have been increasing virtually all year here is because inventory remains at anemic levels. So in today's video, I'm going to share exactly what's happening right now regarding home prices, housing inventory, new listings, and also price reductions, and of course, much more. This will give us some indication of what lies ahead with our US housing market. This is all based on my own analysis of Realtorcom's data here. This is one of my favorite videos to make for you guys every single week here. So here's what Realtor.com reported here regarding what happened last week, which I did not even read because, of course, I'm a real estate housing market data nerd here. Instead, go to Realtor.com/research/data. Click on this link right here. It will take you more or less to this information right here. So the most recent data they have for us is for the week ended July 8th. One of the reasons why I love sharing this data is because we're not even going to see June's numbers from the National Association of Realtors until midweek this year. So this is really a more timely update about what's happening right now with the US housing market. So let's first talk about asking prices in the US, because that decreased by 0.2% compared to the same week 1 year ago. In fact, asking prices have been decreasing year over year for 5 consecutive weeks. Now here's something else you guys should be aware of as well, is that it decreased by 0.2% last week, but for the week ended June 10th through June 24th, it was a decrease of 0.9% year over year. And that, by the way, was the biggest decrease on a year-over-year basis, going back to at least July of 2017, which is as far back as Realtor.com's data goes. I mention that because this 0.2% decrease is not too far off that number, of course, right? Also, for comparison's sake, when comparing the same week of 2019, asking prices increased by 6.7%, whereas this year it decreased by 0.2%. So that's asking prices. Let's have a look at housing inventory or active listing count. This is the percent change in the number of houses for sale year over year. So last week it decreased by 5.4%. This is actually the third consecutive week in which inventory levels have been going down compared to the previous year. Additionally, as a note right there, this is only the third decrease since May of 2022, which of course is night and day difference compared to the huge gains we saw at the start of the year. So for example, from December through March this year, or December last year through March this year, we saw gains in the range of 50 to 70%, more houses for sale compared to the previous year. Whereas this last week, it decreased by 5.4%. Drastic changes compared to just 7 months ago. You may be asking yourself, why has inventory been decreasing for 3 consecutive weeks here? And in my personal opinion, the reason is twofold here. So as I note right here, it has been mostly on a downward trend ever since February this year due to a lack of new supply in the market or a lack of new listings. In other words, it's not filling up the bucket of housing inventory because we're not seeing enough people list their houses for sale. That's number one. Number two is due to the fact that inventory was skyrocketing at this time last year, whereas this year inventory is actually flat compared to the start of this year. So inventory has just reached levels we saw back in January, whereas last year inventory was absolutely skyrocketing through April through the end of the summer. Regarding the number of houses for sale nationwide, here's the latest data from AltusResearch.com. For the week ended July 14th this year, there's around 470,000 houses for sale. 1 year ago, it was 508,000. That's a decrease of 8% year over year. Again, as I mentioned, huge changes happening right now with our housing market because in late February, we saw gains of 76% year over year. Now it's down by 8% compared to 12 months ago. Also, as a note right here, we roughly have the same number of homes for sale nationwide right now compared to the start of this year, even though we're down by 8% year over year. I'll share a chart with you guys here in a little bit here. But inventory levels have been increasing very slowly ever since April this year. So we have approximately 8% fewer houses for sale nationwide compared to the same time frame in 2022, but we're still down by about 51% compared to the same week of 2019. So when looking at pre-pandemic levels regarding inventory levels, we're down by about 51%, but only down by about 8% compared to 12 months ago. Additionally, there's approximately 500,000 fewer houses for sale right now compared to the same week of 2019, which is obviously one of the main reasons why home prices have been increasing. Here's exactly what I mean by that, because for the 7-day ended July 14th, again, around 470,000 houses for sale. Compare that to the same time frame in 2019, there was 960,000, approximately 490,000 more houses for sale back in 2019 compared to now. On top of that, when looking at 2018 this time, there was also around 953,000 houses for sale. Now again, there's only about 470, which by the way is not too much far off last year's levels, again down by about 8%. 1 year ago, there's around 509,000 houses for sale. Back in 2021, around 390,000. 2020, 646,000. One more thing I do want to mention regarding inventory levels over the past year. Let's just look at the first week of last year compared to now. And that is right here. So in, what was this? April last year, inventory levels started to increase. And by the time we hit May through August, inventory levels were absolutely skyrocketing. Whereas this year, inventory levels had only been starting to increase very slightly starting in May this year. So inventory levels at the trough last year was around 240,000 at the beginning of March. But by the time we hit last year's levels, I should say 12 months ago, we were at 508,000. In other words, last year inventory levels more or less doubled from March through July last year. Whereas this year, it's only going slightly up. So for example, the trough was really in mid-April at 405,000 houses for sale. Now it's only 470,000. Much different than the giant gains we saw in the last half last year. Of course, part of the reason why we're seeing a lack of existing houses for sale, historically speaking, of course, is this right here, a lack of new supply in the market. So for example, based on my own analysis of Realtorcom's data here, new listings have been decreasing by double digits for 47 at the past 50 weeks. In fact, for 53 consecutive weeks, we've been seeing year-over-year decreases in the number of new listings compared to 12 months ago. And this, of course, is one of the main reasons why we have a lack of homes for sale for existing houses. And also for the 7 days ended July 8th, new listings fell by 27.1%. Okay, let's also talk about how fast or how slow houses are selling. Again, this is a lagging indicator what our housing market was like approximately 1 and 2 months ago when the home seller accepted the offer from the home buyer, right? Because this is based on closed home sales. In any case, houses are taking longer to sell compared to the same week 1 year ago for 49 consecutive weeks. Last week, it actually took 13 days longer to sell a house compared to the same week of 2022. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about the percent change in the number of price reductions compared to 12 months ago. So last week, it decreased by 30.2%, which is drastically different compared to the triple-digit increases we saw to start this year. In fact, now for 6 consecutive weeks, we've been seeing decreases on a year-over-year basis in the number of price reductions. On top of that, we've been seeing decreases of more than 20% now for 4 consecutive weeks now. Again, we saw triple-digit increases really ever since, when was this? The beginning of November last year, all the way until we hit late March this year. Triple-digit increases in the number of price drops. Now it has been decreasing now for 6 consecutive weeks. I have a couple theories regarding why we're seeing the number of price drops down year over year, now for about 6 consecutive weeks here. And in my personal opinion, this is really due to two main reasons. Number one, low inventory levels, historically speaking, because we have fewer options for houses to buy, leading to fewer price reductions from last year. And number two, price drops were skyrocketing at this time last year, whereas this year it's entirely different. So for example, the share of price drops is flat compared to the start of this year, whereas last year the share of price drops was absolutely skyrocketing due to the fact that rates more than doubled in less than 12 months last year. Here's exactly what I mean by that, because this is according to altosresearch.com for the share of price reductions nationwide. The share is at 33%. Last year this time, it also was around 33% as well, 33.31% to be exact. So the share price drops is roughly on par with last year's levels, but look at this giant surge. The trough was in March last year at around 16.7%. By the time we hit the beginning of July, it increased all the way to 33%. So the share price drops was absolutely skyrocketing ever since April last year, whereas this year it has been hovering around 30 to 33% ever since really the end of January this year. So I hope that makes sense why we're seeing the percent of price drops decreasing from last year, because last year the share was absolutely skyrocketing, whereas this year it is going up, but not the same rate we saw in 2022. One more thing I do want to mention regarding the share of price drops, even though it's on par with last year's levels at 33%, it's still higher compared to 2021 at 22%, and also in 2020 at 25%, but also it's on par with pre-pandemic levels as well, because back in July 19th, 2019, it was 34%, and also for the 7 days ended July 27th, 2018, it also was around 34%. Okay, I know that was a lot to cover in today's video, so here's a summary for you guys, and also stay tuned toward the end of this video, because I can provide some predictions of what may lie ahead with our US housing market. So number one, asking prices in the US posted nearly the biggest decrease on record over the past few weeks, going back to data going back to July of 2017. Also, it's negative year over year for the past 1 month. That's asking prices nationwide. Number two, housing inventory, or the number of houses for sale, decreased by 5% year over year last week. That was also the third decrease on a yearly basis since May of 2022. This is a big one here. We did not see a seasonal uptick in the number of houses for sale this spring, because a lot of homeowners have rates of well below current rates of 7% right now. And of course, they do not want to sell their houses and give up those low rates. Also, new listings have been decreasing by double digits for 47 out of the past 50 weeks. We have nearly 1 year in which nearly every single week, new listings have been going down by double digits. One of the main reasons why we have a lack of houses for sale for existing houses. Additionally, there's approximately 51% fewer houses for sale compared to pre-pandemic levels in 2018 and 2019. Number three, average 30-year fixed rate mortgage rates are around 6.9% according to the Mortgage News Daily as of July 18th, which is today, versus the 5.7% we saw from just 12 months ago, an increase of around 1.1 percentage points. The share price drops is roughly the same as last year and during the same week of 2018 and 19. So share price drops is roughly on par with pre-COVID levels. Also, number five, houses are taking longer to sell compared to the same week 1 year ago for 49 consecutive weeks. So what are some potential huge changes ahead, given the fact that rates have been at or above 6% all year, and they actually have been around 7% for quite some time as well. And of course, a friendly reminder here, I am not a real estate market fortune teller. I do not have any superpowers. So anyways, number one, average 30-year rates are around 1.1 percentage points higher today compared to just 12 months ago. Of course, there's a lot of challenges that home buyers are facing right now. We have near record low housing affordability, low inventory levels of existing houses, elevated rates, as well as the potential of a recession. Of course, there's a lot of uncertainty in our housing market and, of course, our economy as well. So number 2, housing affordability is a huge hurdle for home buyers, especially compared to the past several years. Rates have more than doubled compared to 2020 and 2021, but on top of that, home prices are up by about 40% compared to the same time frame in 2020. Mortgage rates in general have been on the rise since April this year, and at a national level, the median sold price, based on my own analysis of Redfin's data, is up by about 10% year to date. In other words, we have rising rates and home prices, which of course makes housing affordability even worse than it already is. And of course, my personal opinion here, this is not sustainable. We can't have all-time record highs for housing affordability, increases in rates, and on top of that, increases in prices. That is not sustainable, and it will likely change because we should expect to see home sold prices to decrease very, very soon due to seasonality and of course due to affordability constraints as well. Number 3, early signs of home buying demand have been absolutely all over the place this year due to the volatility of rates. The most recent stats we have show that applications for home loans, according to the MBA, for the week ended July 7th, is down by 25% year over year. When looking at pre-pandemic levels and regarding their purchase index, it's on par with the lowest levels going back to February of 2015. Also, Redfin's most recent data shows that pending home sales fell by 15% from a year ago, and also new listings fell by 27%. In other words, low demand is meeting low supply. Also, the National Association of Realtors reported on June 29th that pending home sales in May fell by 2.7% compared to the previous month and was down by 22% from May of 2022. I should have an update for you guys regarding pending home sales from NAR in about a week or two. And of course, I'll make a separate video once that is posted as well. So that's existing houses. For new home construction, it's an entirely different market. They have a large amount of houses for sale, but also they're seeing a surge in home sales compared to decreases in home sales for existing houses. It says here, however, new home construction sales rose by 20% in May as builders are taking advantage of a low amount of existing houses for sale. And again, it appears our housing market is highly rate dependent, so of course the data is ever changing. And also a friendly reminder, of course, real estate is local. Stats I'm sharing in today's video may not pertain to your neighborhood, your state, or even your region in the US here. But this is what's happening overall nationwide here. Number 4, sellers and buyers have exited this housing market, leading to a dip of new listings as well as home sales as well. The lack of new supply of existing houses since last summer has led to inventory remaining at historically low levels, again down by about 51% from 2019. If homeowners continue to decide that now is not a good time to sell your house, then of course that will limit housing inventory as well. In my personal opinion, the direction of our US housing market will depend on unemployment rates, mortgage rates, and inventory levels. And number 4, this is actually the most important one. I appreciate you guys watching today's video, and of course for supporting my YouTube channel as well. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.